One's ready. Go!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. Just to give you a heads up, this is not an ad read. Just to let you know we hit some technical difficulties towards the end, right around like the 45-minute mark. So we just cut it short because my internet wouldn't come back on. So there you go. Enjoy later. Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room. Look at that. Me and Trent. No big deal. What's happening?
Kind of a big deal, you know?
Is it a big deal? I don't know. Everybody, please head over to 18afitness.com. Use the promo code the number one ready. We've got Trent and I in the house, but I'm all over the place. I need to wake up. Yes, 18afitness.com. Promo code the number one ready. Look, we're in January right now. Today is January 20th. I'm gonna quick turn this episode. Inauguration Day, but that means that we only have about 6 months until high schoolers are out, kind of end of the semester, you're about to join. That means you have 6 months, and Coach Edge can take you to wherever you need to be. Now, I'm not saying you can get there in 6 months, but what I'm saying is that he'll be able to assess your current physical level, know that you have 6 to 8 months before you leave, and depending on what you're going to go do, he will then know what you need to be at, and he will tailor make a program for you to get you where you need to be.
And he's not going to lie to you. If you need more than 6 months, I'll probably tell you need more than 6 months to be ready. He's very knowledgeable, so I'm trying to keep this short. I was almost like, don't jump in on the ad because people complain because our ad reads are too long now because we get all chatty because we love talking about the people that we love.
Yeah, well, man, it happens. Still working on that cough.
Jeez, are you dying?
No, I'm
How long
on
is
the
this
tail
thing?
end of it.
How long have you been on the tail end of your cough?
It's super annoying, and it only I go out for a run, and I don't cough while I'm running. As soon as I stop, though,
Yep.
and then while I'm talking, so whatever it is just gets irritated. Anyway, yeah. So we already said we don't know what to talk about. We got a whole bunch of things, but it's one of those things where, man, do I really want to dive into this topic because it's going to take a long time. But earlier I had mentioned that it is January 20. It's our inauguration day.
Is that today? Today is the inauguration?
Today.
Yeah, wasn't tracking. Yeah.
I'm sure we will not be streaming. I don't know if Aaron plans on streaming, but there is going to be tons. I actually prefer watching it through YouTube, through other professional minds that are way better and articulate than I am. But
I mean, not like in MSNBC. You're not going to tune in there to see what they have to say about the inauguration.
No, not so much. No,
That
unless
dude
they have,
Rachel over there has a lot of opinions.
not unless they have Whitney Cummings on. Did you see her during the CNN
No.
New Year's Eve thing?
No.
And she was laying waste. It was so fun. I mean, they've got her live on there, and I don't think they realized that she would go so hard to the pay, but she started clowning them too, and it was great.
Yeah, don't hire a comedian if you don't want some comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like when they the Oscars get Ricky Gervais on.
They had to know.
And he's just out freaking pepper spraying people.
So are you excited for the inauguration then? Or is this a thing?
I am. I mean, I don't get like super excited. If I had been given an invite to attend, I totally would attend. But I would do that regardless of the party too, because I think that that's just something kind of cool to go to, whether it was, I mean, I would much prefer, it to be more aligned with my values and my opinions. But at the same time, I think it's just like if you don't like who your president is, but you're still given the opportunity to go visit the White House, like you go to the White House. Like
maybe it depends on why you're going. I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, it's just I throw it in the same bucket as like certain people's like going aways and stuff that I don't go to. I'm like, they're like, you should go to the going away. I'm like, I hate that dude. No, I mean, I don't hate them, but like we had professional differences. It's not like we were buddies.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go to their going away.
I think going to a B Dubs or something like that for going away for somebody you don't like is a little different than hitting the White House.
I don't know.
Maybe. Nah, it's
Is
the
it?
same.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a build. I don't know. Like, I don't want to be there and be like showing support, whether intentionally or not, for something I don't
Yeah.
believe in.
No, I get that. I mean,
But
because
I get the other side. It's like, oh, it's the White House, like America, history, blah blah blah. But I'm like, but if the dude in the chair is I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know. I don't want to shake your hand. That's awkward. I don't want a picture of me being like, hey,
you don't want to get sniffed.
no.
No.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder.
An
Do I smell?
Axe body spray.
uh,
Yeah, I
ugh.
don't know. I it's a big day. So I did that Instagram live yesterday with one of the recruiters, and we were he was definitely careful. I mean, because we don't know each other, he didn't know
Yeah.
how loosey goosey I'll get. Obviously, he didn't like what I had behind me because he's like, "Oh shit, that's going to get me. That's going to get me banned or demonetized."
What's that?
So
The weapon?
yeah,
It's a museum piece. You're
I
not.
know,
Who cares?
but but what I mean is when you don't know somebody, you don't know how, and he's got a lot to lose on that channel, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Like I don't know what money he's making from it or anything like that, but or if there's any money. But yeah, what was I talking about?
I don't know. You went on the Instagram live. We were talking about the inauguration. You're on there
Yeah.
with GB. He was KG.
Oh, that's right. And we started talking about inauguration, and it was just more about. I actually have no freaking idea what I was going to say. That is a problem, man. You should. Now that's what's funny is when I'm recording these solos, dude. Yeah, I am in a whole nother like space within my mind of
Hmm.
trying to. I don't know how you do some of these when you just go for an hour solo
You
and
just
you
keep
don't. And
talking.
there's no. I don't have to do any editing. Like in terms of, I cut the front, I cut the back. There's nowhere in there where you're like, hey man, you got to take this out. I don't know what I was saying.
That would seem rude on my part. Just be like, Jared, just jump in here and edit this for me. Like, and I mean, it's not that serious. Like the whole point of like, not the whole point, but like one of my things about being on the podcast is I'm not trying to portray something I'm not. I don't want clean editing. I don't want, a script to say something. I'm going to change my mind about certain things as we go along the way. And on a lot of the solos, actually, it's like a thought experiment where I
Yeah,
start in one place and then I kind of like try to attack an idea from all angles. And, sometimes I try to get back to the point. Sometimes I don't make it there. But it's just kind of fun. I mean, it's exhausting and it's terrifying, but also it can be a good time.
yeah. The problem I have is that I will get lost in my own, and you guys know it. I'll sit here and I'll start talking about other things, and then I try and bring it back because I forget what I was. I mean, dude, it's 100 miles an hour in here in
Yeah.
my brain. So, and then I will go so far, so many miles past where I was that I can't remember how to get back to it.
All
So,
thrust, no vector. You're just like, ooh, shiny object.
yep, 100%. So when I'm solo and I don't have you guys to go like, yeah, dude, we were talking about this.
We're bringing it back. We're bringing it
Yeah.
back. It's fine. It's fine. People love it. People love your solos.
Yeah, it's because they're only 20 minutes long.
But yeah, I don't know. You're like super relatable. People like you. You're a people person. You care about people and all that other stuff. So I think it shows.
Yeah, I mean, I do care about people. I like going back to that live. I talked about you guys, um, and the different personalities that we have on here, and that you know it probably was good that he started with me at least. But although I'm the boring one, I think is what I said. I'm definitely the boring one.
No,
Whereas if you want to generate views, you want to generate um, engagement and discussion, you got to have you and Aaron on.
no, you gotta get Aaron. Aaron, like
For
if you want views through controversy, because Aaron will just say what he thinks, and he's really good at articulating it. So it's difficult to argue with that man.
it is really tough because even when I'm Even when he makes a point that I'm like, normally I wouldn't disagree on, I'm like, oh, you know what? He's right.
Dang it!
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good time, but it's good to get on the podcast. I know. I think the Mike Ritland one is dropping today. It was funny because they released a clip on YouTube where I called Hegseth an E4 and not an O4 because I think I got him and JD mixed up a little bit.
Oh
And
yeah.
of course, the comments are like, "He was a major. He was a." Okay, guys, I'm sorry that like midstream during a podcast, like that I drove to Dallas for. I didn't remember that he was the O and JD was the E. Like my mistake. I just want to believe that everybody that I want to have positive feelings for was an E4 at some point because that's where my heart lies.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can't say anything. And then um the spiciest of reels that he dropped immediately, right out the gate for you.
Yeah. Well, so the question that of course, it's a reel, right? So the question that he asked me wasn't, do women belong? He was like, hey, DEI policies, did it affect morale? So I gave him the biggest, I think morale affecting DEI thing that happened within AFSOC during the time period we were talking about. But yeah, it got real, dude. People up in those comments
Uh-huh.
were like, and it was like, and it was a little, I wouldn't say I took offense, but some of them were like, how come it's only dudes talking about this? And I'm like, well, there's plenty of female vets out there talking. Also, like my wife was on the podcast, who is a retired Air Force, also retired Air Force major. Just,
Oh, did she
um,
this episode, was she was in the room, or like she got on the podcast with you?
no, I mean, like we've recorded with her, right? Like
Oh,
she's been on the
nice.
ONESREADY
Oh,
podcast.
okay. You mean, okay. I wasn't sure if you
Yeah.
meant like Mike Ritland's
It's
podcast.
just, yeah, some of these comments are like, how come we never hear from the women? It's like, we hear from the women all the time. Also, I try to get my wife onto our podcast all the time. And it's just, it's just not her jam. She doesn't want to
Yeah.
come on here and chit chat about her career all the time. So
Yeah. Also, my wife doesn't want to come on here and talk about me and
I
talk
think she
about
should, though. That'd be fun.
yeah. She
Woo!
she definitely doesn't want to come on here and talk about me, and she probably doesn't want to come on here and talk about, the 21 years that she's 21 20 years that she's done this with me.
Yeah, we had to do that math last
Both
night. We're
good and
like,
bad memories. So
right. We were like in bed and we're like, when did we meet? And have we known? Oh my goodness, we've been together for like 18 years. Like,
yeah, yeah, it's wild.
yeah, it shows when we after we come back from the gym in the morning, we all lay out our vitamins that we're gonna take. Yeah.
You don't have your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, your weekly, your
No,
daily
I
pills.
just pull all of them out of the pantry, and I'm just like, two of these, one of these. It's like baking.
Well, what are so you're working now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you allowed to say who you're working for, and what, or maybe not. Maybe just say what you guys are doing, because you guys are doing something pretty cool.
Well, I'm trying to keep these streams as clean as possible, just because I don't want to put the contract company in a bad position.
Never mind.
We've dealt with contract companies in this space before, and having people on the podcast. And so like I come into the position working as a this is part of my life as the podcast. So I mean I was very open about it. Made sure that I signed an NDA right away. So if anybody's concerned about me talking, so that's one of the things too, is I was like,
Oh,
like to protect you, make me sign an NDA so that unless you ask me to, I'm not going to go on the podcast and talk about what we're doing, just because I want to protect the company. Like the people I work with are fantastic and it's awesome.
hmm.
I like being around the Air Force stuff again. It wasn't what I planned to do. It's just, and I always tell people, I'm like, I got a job on accident. So, and I think I told Mike this too. I'm like, I'm the worst example of like how do you transition out and get a job and be successful? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't do a resume. I didn't do my VA stuff before I got out. And then like my wife hates it because she's like, things just always work out for you. You didn't even do a resume and you didn't do all the things you're supposed to do, but you still got a job. I'm like,
Shit, I'm Teflon Don. What's up?
yeah, what? Yeah. And like it wasn't that hard. I just waited for my friend to call somebody, and mention my name, and then I got a job.
That that is definitely not the norm, for sure, and that is not a given thing. But I think it also kind of lends its hands to when people ask us what can you do when you get out? Well, you can do anything, and those, I think what you're talking about is kind of SOFT, soft skills, and then
Yeah.
also the kind of stench of arrogance or the maybe it's not arrogance, but it's like, hey man, I'm I'm not getting shot at. I can breathe. Thing Everybody's kind of healthy right now. I'm not broken. It'll work out. Things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And just making shit happen. I think
Yeah.
maybe I'm completely way off base though.
Well, and it's in the training environment, right? And I'm very confident in the training environment. I didn't just run cones for my entire career. I dealt with a lot of the curriculum and all the higher level stuff as well. So, if you're a contractor and you're working in that space and you don't have like a military person with like a lot of experience on your team or a former military person, I think there's just the learning curve is so steep for them, that bringing in somebody, whether they have a resume or not, that just understands how the Air Force works, especially on the training side, um, provides hopefully provides enough value to earn my paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I get it, and the NDA, I don't definitely don't want to paint you into a corner or anything, but it is cool what you guys are doing, and hopefully it makes a difference, and then hopefully subsequent things end up working out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those like it's part of who we are now, right? We've been doing this podcast for over 5 years, and what are we trying to do? We're trying to make the Air Force better. Like we're not on here being like I did everything right or we have all the answers, but I think our intentions are to try to make things better for the folks coming in the door, right, and the folks replacing us. And so it's nice to have that opportunity to kind of be involved in some of that stuff. Continue to be involved. It just kind of complements what I already do on the podcast, and it's good to see that stuff.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
what are you gonna do? You're out. Are you? I think you had a job, maybe lined
I'm
up.
not. I mean, technically, I'm still on terminal,
Yeah, yeah,
but I don't want to. I don't know why I'm being cagey about it. Just um, because now I feel like I've told too many people what I'm doing, and now I
yeah.
feel like maybe I'm boasting about it, and it's also like it's not set in stone yet, really. I mean, I got some really good people, some of my friends that are telling me like, "Hey, you're good. This is going to be good." At the same time, like until you know receive that offer letter or you receive that first paycheck,
Yep.
you know. So part of
Even
it
then,
is, yeah, So part of it is just um, going hard to the paint on this on the podcast until I get that position, and then we'll just have to figure out what happens with not what happens with One's Ready, but the frequency of which it might end up having to go back to 3 a week or less. I don't know.
or we can just come on here and record a few times a week before work. It's
Yeah,
fine.
and funny enough, I think the boss that I will have, who we both know,
Yeah.
is extremely supportive of the show. Um, I mean, extremely supportive of it, and I think that maybe I'm sure I could probably set up a portable studio or something like that, or a portion of the office that I will have as maybe a quick recording. So maybe I could still
Take a
knock
lunch
out
break.
content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
No, I
I
mean,
don't know.
it's funny. It's a funny thing about the podcast. It's sometimes it's easy to sit here and be like, I'm wasting my time talking into the internet, and I enjoy it. Obviously, I
Mhm.
love coming on here and hanging out with the guys. But every once in a while, like yesterday, like that piece of paper that we were shown, it's like we really are, like we are being helpful. We're not perfect, right? And I don't even think your friend that you're going to work for, or the person that you're going to work for, expects perfection out of it. But it's like I think we're trying to shine a positive light on the community, and I think we're having a net positive effect on everything.
I think so. I'd like to think so, unless those are just robot emails and robot messages that are sending us stuff about their personal thing.
We're actually
So,
ruining everything, and like the Russian bot farms are sending us all this positive
yeah, like
emails, being like, "You guys are
man,
doing
you guys
such a
are
great
great.
job." Yeah,
And the negative comments that we get are actually from genuinely concerned people.
you're like, ignore those bots. That's not real.
And I the Medal of Honor thing, like
Mm,
I'm still second guessing myself about that episode that I put out.
why?
I don't know why.
Aaron thought you didn't go hard enough.
I mean, well, Aaron almost always thinks that I don't go hard enough.
Yeah, it's well, I think it's hard if you don't understand the background, right? Like that thing was 20 years in the making just to get the Medal of Honor to Chapman. And if you weren't in our community, I could understand that you don't understand all the background and how much time and effort it took. Like AFSOC had to like frame by frame go over that footage and submit a whole bunch of stuff to make this happen. And even then, there were asterisks along with it because the Navy has power, and the SEALs are a large organization, and I'm not all sure who was all pushing the political buttons to make things happen the way that they did. But it's not a secret that we that Chapman should have been the only one to get a Medal of Honor out of that experience
Yeah.
for those for that. And then when the museum decides to make a decision to not highlight one of the most impressive medals of honor uh, during their opening or whatever, and instead highlight this other dude who everybody knows didn't earn it. Um, it's kind of like another slap in the face,
Yeah. And a lot of that was, and so, shout out to Nate at Valhalla VFT, because he sat down and did the research. I simply got sent a screenshot from Chapman's daughter and like, well, I'm just going to provide not a counter to his sister, but like, just here's an alternate point of view, and I wasn't, mine was more of a, hey, let's see and wait, and sort of casting judgments, which in hindsight, I think was probably wrong, just in the way that, I mean, that's just the way I'm built, right? It's the way that I'm wired. But I may like, let's pause real quick just to see, and I don't expect malicious intent. Now, as more and more time goes on and more information comes out, I'm going like, well, dude, I was wrong. Like, it for sure is
I mean,
malicious intent.
the 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 email that the museum sent out, they sent us an email,
Yep.
trying to explain how what happened, and but like the whole thing, and the one sentence that really stuck out to me was, "We don't decide who gets the Medal of Honor." And I remember in our group text, I was like, "But you sure as bleep, get to decide how to curate your
Yep.
museum."
Your own museum.
Yeah. So, however they came to that decision, it rubs us all the wrong way. And if they're the Medal of Honor Museum and they're not tracking that history, like how are you not tracking the history? Then how are you the Medal of Honor Museum? You know what I mean?
The
Like,
only way they're not tracking it is because he is intentionally, since he's a board member, has intentionally obfuscated and omitted the information in the
yeah,
background.
yeah, it's weird.
And unless I mean, really, why would some of these other people, other than him, even be aware of this controversy?
I don't know.
You
I
know?
don't know. It was just weird, and it's one of those things. So AFSOC is kind of like the ground pounders in AFSOC. We're tiny. We are like in matters of size, like we are the little brother of everybody else, all the other ground pounding SOCOM assets. And so yeah, sometimes we're a little sensitive when our guys do great things, and maybe they're not recognized the way that we think that they should be recognized because they don't come from the right service. We don't have as much Schlitz and SOCOM for the ground pounders as these other organizations, and beyond, right? In the zeitgeist of the United States of America, like people just don't know, Um, so yeah, maybe we're a little sensitive. Maybe you were trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I think they they messed this up pretty good.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I definitely could have gone harder the paint for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but
I'm sorry. I went to the gym this morning, so I'm gonna have to take a quick break because I only hydrate in the
all right. Well,
mornings.
I'm gonna keep recording then. He's got to go take a potty break. Look at that. Let me mark this though, so that I can bleep out his camera though. So 24 minutes. All right, we'll do that. Um, yeah, man, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that I went hard to the paint or not hard enough, and that I should have not given it benefit of the doubt? It's kind of the way I'm wired, man. I've always kind of just like, I have this. what's great is you get to see it right now in real time. But I have always had this: I trust everybody until you prove me wrong. I usually am not skeptical of people. If you tell me that you did X thing, or you're capable of X thing, or that you're going to do X thing, then I just, man, I believe you. I think, okay, well, you told me you're going to do it, or you told me that you did do it, or you told me that you did this in the past, or that you're this kind of person. I'm like, all right, cool. I believe you at your word until later on, discovery starts coming out, and then I find out that you're completely full of shit. So
Whoa.
I'm talking about how I give the benefit of the doubt and I trust people
Yeah.
right off the bat, and how it's bitten me in the ass before. Um,
But I don't think you and I like to be like with the other thing, right? Like every time there's like an emotional type event on social media, you and I are typically a little slower to like jump on bandwagons and be
Mhm.
like, yeah, let's burn it to the ground. Um, maybe just because maybe we've been burned in the past by going too hard or whatever it is. But like, yeah, we're a little more like that. So like when all this stuff comes out, like lots of people like to go hard, and I usually encourage other people to go hard because I want to see what happens because I
Yeah,
want to see the
I want to
aftermath
see
and I
it
want
burn.
to see the data that comes out. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, because sometimes you can't see the data until somebody gets pressed.
Yeah. So,
That's why I think
uh,
that there's a place for those. There's a place for those people. Like there's a place for Aaron to really go in and poke somebody's chest. And I think sometimes you do have to poke somebody in the chest to get actual information out. And I have been burnt in the past by intrinsically just trusting people, like right
yeah,
off the bat, right at their word. And it has been me in the past. Problem is that I still continue to trust people, because of what I don't want to do is live in that space where, okay, dude, everybody starts at the ground floor. You're not trusting it, and now everybody's got to prove it. And I don't necessarily think that that's the best place to be either.
yeah. No, I made a conscious decision at some point to just trust people and to think the best of them for the most part, right? Unless they prove me otherwise. And yeah, you get burned sometimes, but for like my life, my sanity, my how I approach the world, I would much rather approach everything from a positive standpoint. I know that doesn't really come across in the podcast all the time, that how positive I am,
I
right?
think it does.
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
think it does?
I don't know.
I don't know it. I don't care.
Look, exactly. If you, I'm just saying, maybe it's an approachability thing that I'm conflating with this positivity thing. Because if you and I walk into a restaurant and there's like 5 people that recognize us from like ONESREADY, I guarantee that you're the one that they're going to go to talk to. Because I've seen people recognize me before and be like, nah,
Not today.
I
Nah.
don't think he wants to talk to me right now. Because I can be a little snarky on here.
Yeah, but you do need that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's you're like the giver of the benefit of the doubt. I think I'm like a more in the middle, and Aaron's on the other side. I think that's why this works, right? We all kind of like have different perspectives on how we come after things. We roll around subjects and figure it out. Um, and I think it works out. But yeah, that museum, you done messed up.
Yeah,
That's. I think we're all there now. And when you get all 3 of us on board,
that's
that's not good.
it's not a good place to be.
Yeah, you messed up. You're on the wrong side of ONESREADY. Do you know what that means?
You know what that means to you? um, hmm. All right. We were talking, and it reminded me that SOCOM released its 2025 fact book, right?
Yes.
And people can find that at SOCOM.mil, MIL. For whatever reason, Google Chrome will not allow me to get to it, but Safari does.
Or
Anyway,
duck duck
why do
go.
I bring that up? And it's just, I literally just thought about it and Googled it and got to it. And they actually have a Medal of Honor recipient thing in there. They're page 3, 4, 5, and it goes through all the, since World War One, all the Medal of Honor
Dang.
recipients.
Mm, that is not loading on mine either.
Yeah,
That's weird.
It's not great, but
But
actually, I can.
it's cold here today. You know, everything's a little cold in San Antonio if it's below 32.
I think
You
you
know,
guys are
everything runs a little
colder than
slow.
we are right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. We might get like a dusting of snow tonight, so everybody's just expecting Tuesday to be. You know, Texas is closed on
Yeah,
Tuesday.
that's so.
Ooh,
Anyway, so this is oops, I can't do it on the screen. I need to do it here. So this is the fact book. Um,
that's cool.
it gives you table of contents. Anyway, so the reason why I was going to it to look something else up, but this is what I was talking about in terms of World War One all the way down.
It's
This
weird.
is one thing that the Air Force messes up in terms of messaging and that kind of stuff. Is that look, every single one that's a SEAL says SEAL,
Mm-hmm.
SEAL, SEAL. We should really like have CCT, PJ, SR, TACP. If for
Yeah,
any, I mean, there's only been one CCT, Chapman, but there's been several PJs. So
yeah. That would probably help. That would help. Maybe we will hit up SOCOM and see if they can fix that for us.
yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for like, hey guys, like I know that this is how the Air Force sends it to you, but it would make more sense if you did it this way. I don't
yeah.
think that they would be upset about it.
Well, I was going to look for something. So if you guys aren't tracking, the fact book is something that SOCOM generally puts out every year, and it just kind of gives you updates. Man, this dude, Braga, awesome dude.
Yeah,
Awesome dude. Yeah. And I've met her once. She seemed like a really, really nice person. Really good. But he is awesome.
it's good to know.
Let's see. Man, it's not gonna have the info that I was looking for.
The Navy SEALs and the boat drivers.
Yeah, it's not gonna have the information. So I was actually looking for something because I wanted to bring it up and talk about it, but I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research because me and my son were hiking yesterday, and we started talking about he's got a new rifle and that kind of stuff, and we were talking about teaching him how to shoot, and he's like, well, I said, I can teach you how to shoot, or we can, if you don't want to hear from your dad, like we can hire somebody and teach you how to shoot and that kind of stuff, and teach you the fundamentals and stuff like that. And he goes, well, you're in the military. I want you to teach me, which I kind of figured that he would do. And I really appreciate it. I'm like, but at the same time, I also was like, hey man, you know that most people in the military don't shoot just because somebody tells you they were in the military. And, um, oh, can you cover this real quick?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about it. Shooting in the military. So there's like a lot of different versions of the military, and I think everybody knows this. I think the one of the big jokes to lead into this is always the what is it, military grade equipment, and all the vet pages are like that doesn't mean what you think it means. It means that they met the minimum requirements for whatever contract we wrote to give equipment to the mass amount of people. And when you talk about the military and shooting, it's a lot the same way. Uh, Granted, some of the very best shooters on the planet reside within the United States military, and a lot of people that maybe shot once in basic training and that's it. Maybe, um, shot for qualification on a flat range in a very controlled environment pre-deployment. But most people are not, unless you have a job where you have to do it often, or you have a personal drive to be a great shooter. Being in the military does not mean that you're good at shooting. And then that's another thing too, though, is like I'm fairly certain that some of the best shooters out there, like the competitive shooters and all that other stuff, I can almost guarantee there's a bunch of people in non-combat, AFSCs, MOSs, jobs in the military, or rates. Is that in the Navy? The rates that are better shooters than the vast majority of the special operations guys, because they want to do it because they do it on their own. But just being in the military, going through the very basic shooting that you have to get through to the basic trainings and all that other stuff, it's if anything, it probably is a negative experience when it comes to actually knowing how to shoot than a positive.
It sounds like you were covering exactly where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Just because you're in the just because somebody says they're in the military does not mean they handled a weapon. And so what I was going to do is I was trying to explain to him like how many just within special operations command,
Yeah.
how few of those are actual, gunslingers. And then now you start talking about like the only other like who I would consider gunslingers within, I don't even know if there's any others than Air Force Special Warfare within the Air Force. Um, I mean, security forces is not out there freaking slinging lead down range. Neither's
Uh,
OSI.
I think the Moody guys train a lot though, and some of those guys get like their sniper quals and a few other things out there.
Okay,
But it's like a specialized unit within security forces, right? It's not
right.
like security forces writ large. It's like,
You're talking
oh
about
my,
the 820th.
yeah.
Like I don't even know if that the daggers are shooting as much as we are.
Well, and it begs the question: how often do you need to shoot? How many rounds do you need to put down to be considered a intentional rounds, right? Not just shooting.
Not
How many
desktops.
intentional rounds do you have to go through on a regular basis to be considered a good shooter? Like the best shooters that we know, like how much do those guys shoot?
Oh, dude, they're shooting constantly.
Yeah,
They're shooting. I mean, some of those guys are shooting every day. Every day. I don't
yeah,
think you need to be at that. But then again, that's also not my job, right? My job as a controller was I needed to be able to shoot. I needed a baseline level of CQB. I needed a demolition. I needed air traffic control. I needed JTAC stuff, right? Then I had to jump, dive, do all, fast rope, all that stuff.
you're an
Whereas
expert in all those things all at once, no matter what. You could go from a JTAC rotation over to an AZRT rotation. Perfect. No training required.
when you get old enough, yes.
Yeah. But it's funny though when we're like, oh, we're experts in all these things. Like the pamphlet, it's like
Hmm.
Green Berets do all these things. It's like, well, not everybody.
Not
All right.
all that. But yeah, and then you go to the army, right? They've got a lot of gunslingers. You got 82nd, 101st, any of the infantry dudes, the 11s, 11 series, and then obviously your 18 series ODA dudes.
Yeah.
Um, there's probably Rangers as well, of course.
Those
But
are
after that,
gunslingers. The Rangers, I would say gunslinger, right? Because they probably do more shooting than your average infantry. And I know the
oh yeah,
ODA guys, some of them shoot a lot, but like they also, just like being a combat controller, they also have a bunch of other jobs that come along with shooting. Like Green Berets are not your only assault element. They're
right,
not typically just assaulters. They do a lot of other things, and so there's only so many hours in the day.
yeah, and there's a lot of requirements that we have to have. But and then you know NSW same thing, or not NSW, the Navy same thing. NSW is probably their largest. I mean, because they're not gunslinging on a freaking on a ship or a
No,
boat,
I think if you're not NSW, it wouldn't make sense because you have the
right?
Marines. Like the Marines are supposed to be the gunslingers of the Navy, right?
Yeah,
And they have all their levels of Marines that do that. And then outside of your SWIC, SEALs, and even though I think EOD doesn't technically fall under NSW,
no, they don't.
um, but those guys get some shooting in.
Yep.
The Navy EOD guys are good.
And that's I got asked yesterday on the live, hey, what about SEER and EOD and Air Force Special Warfare? And the recruiter's like, yeah, they're special warfare. I'm like, ooh, no, they're not. They're not. We we lump them in as for recruiting and messaging or recruiting, but I've told the command this, and I've told I think we are selling a false bill of goods to people that want to be EOD and SEER when it comes to lumping them in with Air Force Special Warfare. The EOD and SEER do not have a problem with recruiting. They do well with their numbers. And I think if somebody thinks they're going to come into Air Force EOD and be like Navy EOD, no, I think and I think that sometimes we sell that. I say we. I think the Air Force sells that because we lump them in with Air Force Special Warfare, and that's nowhere close to what they do. on a daily basis.
Yeah, they do some cool stuff, but you just got to be comfortable with what they do. Look, and this is always that question is are they special warfare? And I'm like, there isn't, in my mind at least, there's not like this like hierarchy of importance to the jobs,
Mm-mm.
right? Every job is required and necessary. You just need to understand what it is that Air Force EOD does, and if you are a worker, the crazy things that you can get yourself into and involved with, but you're not going to be, you're not going to be doing the same things as all the other EOD guys out there. It's a separate mission set, and you have like a separate chain of command, and it's a lot different in the Air Force. But it doesn't mean that it's not cool. It doesn't mean that you can't get involved in all kinds of wild things.
Yeah, right, and that's why I'm not. And I hope I don't sound like I'm diminishing it. It's more of just it's we hear oh, my recruiter lied to me, and that's the old trope, right? Well, we're kind of, I say we, the Air Force is kind of doing that when we say, hey, Air Force, join the Air Force Special Warfare. You've got your AFSCs that are 1Zs and 19Zs, Special Tactics Officer, Combat Rescue Officer, TAC P Officer, CCT, PJ, SR, TAC P. And then we throw in ANSEER and DOD. It's like, and we've talked about it before. I think that we not mismanage, we misinform people
Yeah.
about SEER and EOD because we throw them into the aspect war bucket.
I mean, what was the delineator there? Like, did any SEER EOD guys get like? There's probably like one, maybe I'm sure like one Air Force EOD guy got a rifle kill during GWAT. You know what I mean? Like, but there's just, it's not normal. It's
No,
not normal to get you look at like the combat action medal or whatever, and how it's spread across, and even within the special warfare group, it's a group of AFSCs. It's different. Like it would be hard to come across a combat controller with 10 years in that hadn't been shot at and
yeah,
shot his weapon in anger and dropped bombs or done all these other things. Most of my guys got into gunfights. Not that many of the PJs per the entire PJ career field. Like some of them got into a ton of gunfights. And it's one of those things. Some guys are just like shit magnets.
yep,
But there's a whole pile of PJs because they're rescue guys, and they have stateside missions on the guard side, and there's a ton of PJs over there and all the other stuff. But not all of them get into gunfights, and so it's like this weird thing. But a bunch of TAC Ps got into gunfights too. So like, but it's just like SEER and EOD, you're not going to get into gunfights. At least that it was a lot clearer, I think, during GWAT. Now, that not very many people are getting into gunfights at all. It's just like, but that's not part of your job description as a SEER guy is to go out there and shoot somebody. It's not part of your job description as an EOD guy to go out there and shoot somebody, at least in the Air
right.
Force.
And that's, I don't know. And like I said, that's why I bring it up, and that's why people tend to think that did I lose connection? Is that what happened? I'm gonna keep talking like I didn't lose connection, but you're
Yeah,
back.
I don't know if you froze or if I froze. Yeah, we lost
I don't
each
know.
other.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're
Anyway,
like
I just
super
think it's
blurry on my screen, but
well, I show that I'm still recording, so we'll go with that. You're showing that we're still recording,
we're
right?
good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why I think it's important that we message correctly, because if not, people are going to feel like they're sold a false bill of goods. So,
Well, I think that there's the recruiter, right? And then there's the Air Force, and then there's the individual. There's never been a better time to educate yourself in the history of the world than today. And so if you join now and you're like, my recruiter lied to me, and you didn't make any effort on your own to go find this information out, if you didn't check out our podcast, if you didn't, there's a million people out there willing to talk about their jobs these days. This is not post World War II where everybody claimed that nobody talked about what they did, which is weird because there's a million books about it. So everybody else, there's a bunch of people that obviously did talk about what they did. But like all the information is there. It's at your fingertips. We all have phones or access to the internet and blah, blah, blah. So there shouldn't be very many people saying my recruiter lied to me. It's like, you probably lied to yourself.
well, you believed everything you heard too. But, that's kind of what we tell people though. Like, dude, when you're going to a recruiter and there's so much information being put out there and you're so young and you're hearing a bunch of stuff, like maybe you misheard, or maybe you hung on to the wrong thing, or maybe you heard what you wanted to hear because you only took in 1% of what was actually said. So, when you come to me and you go, "Hey, my recruiter lied to me," I'm more like, "Well, maybe they lied, or maybe you kind of heard what you wanted to, or you didn't hear the entire picture, you only heard one thing and you kind of got stuck on that."